So this is my next video. I think it's the 52nd video, and it will contain small talks, small ideas that I collected through these days. And the first small talk is about my first dialogue that I learned by heart, because I learned several prose by heart, and it was very hard for me to find a dialogue that I want to learn. And my most favorite dialogue from the movie Thor 3 Ragnarok, and this is the scene when Thor is almost overpowered or overkilled, is almost killed by his sister Hela, who came to take Asgard. And at this crucial moment, Thor somehow went into some mental realm, which is which has the environment of Norway. This like plain with a small grass along it, over it. The plain covered with short green grass, and here Thor met his father Odin, who died some time ago, and they have the dialogue about the current situation in Asgard and with Hela and with all this stuff. So Thor and Odin, his father, and his father Odin starts: when you had only even when you had two eyes, you had seen only half of the picture. One more time. Even when you had two eyes, you had seen only half a picture. She is too strong. Without my hammer, I can't. Are you Thor, the god of hammers? This hammer was to have you control your power, to focus it. It was never the source of your strength. It's too late. She's already taken Asgard. Asgard is not a place, never was. This could be Asgard. Asgard is where our people stand. Even now, right now, those people need your help. I'm not as strong as you. I'm not as strong as you. No, you're stronger. So this is my favorite lines from this third Thor movie, and I liked this movie very, very much. I rewatch the best moments, the best dialogues, and the best soundtracks again and again. Yeah. And I think that this small role of Anthony Hopkins, who portrayed Hannibal Lecter in The Silence of the Lambs of 1991, this particular small role of Odin, when he encouraged his son Thor, saying, "No, you're stronger." This is the best scene in the movie, and maybe this is one of his best roles in his career, although I didn't watch much of his movies. So this was the first small talk, my first dialogue that I learned by heart, because I really liked these lines, and I almost learned them by rewatching this again and again, and then I just kind of set the order of these lines and learned some particular phrases, and voila, the whole voila, I don't know, the whole dialogue was ready. The second small talk will be about some Latin phrases, and the best thing about Latin phrases that they sound similar in English to the way they sound in Russian, because these are just different ways to pronounce the same Latin language. And the first line that the first phrase, or maybe the first Latin proverb that encouraged me to recall some Latin phrases that I knew from somewhere, but then I forgot them because I never used them. So the first phrase is si vis pacem parabellum, which means if you want to have peace, you need to be ready for war. You need to or if you want to have peace, get ready for war. And this particular phrase, this is new for me. I never heard its Russian translation or its Latin form in any book or in any movie. And where I get this phrase from is the third John Wick, which has the subtitle Parabellum, and at some point near the end of the movie, this guy who was the owner of the Continental situated in New York, and when his butler and John Wick prepared to fight against the soldiers that were sent by the High Table, this continental owner said this line: si vis pacem parabellum. So I checked this in Wikipedia, and there was the explanation why the movie was named this way. And finally I learned this line, and the funny thing is that I heard this line from one of my acquaintances like a month later. I never heard this line before, but when I learned it, I heard it in my real life, and that was funny. So it was the first line, the first Latin phrase I remembered. So the second Latin phrase that came to my mind naturally was veni vidi vici, which I learned I think at school somewhere when I not in my 5th grade when we studied ancient Rome, but somewhere since my 8th till my 11th grade, when I participated in this city level intellectual competitions of World War I, and I tried to read some useful information that can be useful for participating in these competitions, answering the questions. So Veni Vidi Vici is quite a famous phrase that Julius Caesar pronounced, I think, in the connection to to Rome when he, I don't know, maybe when he crossed the Rubicon, and this meant that he needed to fight against the government aristocrats of the Rome, and to become the emperor, or to perish in this fight. And I think that when he conquered the Rome and became the emperor, he said this phrase "Veni vidi vici," but in Russian this phrase is more popular in its translated form, like, yeah, I came, I saw, I conquered. And the interesting thing is that vidi, which is the second verb, is the Latin stem for many words that are connected to different video devices. Yeah, so this video devices already contains this video stem, like video and other stuff. Okay, maybe I can't name these devices in English, but there are lots of the stuff, video camera, which were created from this particular vidi Latin verb. And the third verb, which is vici, it is the source of the word victory, like vic. It spells V-I-C-I, but it is pronounced like Vici, and victory derives from this verb vic. Okay, so this is the second Latin phrase that I recalled from my past, Veni vidi vici. The third phrase that I recalled, per aspera ad astra, and it means through some obstacles we reach the stars. This phrase was quite famous in Soviet Union. Maybe was, but its Russian translation was famous for sure, because somewhere in 1980s they created the science fiction movie which was called Through the Obstacles to the Stars, and it was the direct translation from the Latin phrase per aspera ad astra. So I learned this particular phrase somewhere when I studied Latin phrases that became famous in Russian language, and it was quite famous phrase. So it's the third line from the Latin language, and the last line for today is in vino veritas. And again, I recalled this just from my memory, and I learned this phrase from the poem written by Russian poet of the Silver era, of the Silver Age, Alexander Blok, and the poem is called "The Stranger" in the terms of women, not just any stranger, but a stranger, which is a woman, because the protagonist of this poem observed one particular woman who came to the restaurant each evening. So, a stranger. And there is a long description of the atmosphere, and in St. Petersburg this evening mood, people who sails on the boats along the Neva river and other stuff. And in the end, Block gives you two lines. First, in vino veritas, and then istina vinia, which is the Russian translation, and which means the truth is in the wine. And this particular phrase means that when you are drunk, then there is a Russian proverb for this situation, for this idea, and this proverb is translated, or maybe this proverb translates like what the sober man has in its mind, the drunk man says. The drunk man has in its mouth, in its tongue. Yeah. So what the sober man thinks, that the drunk man says. Yeah. So in vino veritas, istina vinia. And from this I learned this line, but I didn't. The truth is in the wine. But I didn't translate. But I didn't understood this idea about sober and drunk man. I just somehow learned the phrase in its form, and it was alright for me. So this is the fourth line from the Latin that I recalled during the last week. And the funny thing that I learned some Block's poems in my 10th grade when I prepared for playing in this school world what were when games. Yeah. So I didn't I didn't record this line for all these years, and now it came to my mind, and that's cool. So this is the second small talk I wanted to say about. And maybe the third talk that I have is about the particular word tread, to tread, like to step. And this is kind of difficult word because usually I didn't meet this word in the movies or in the books, or maybe when I meet it, I just kind of replace it with its synonyms like walk on something, to step on something, and I didn't learn this particular word. But then at some point I recalled the movie Equilibrium with Christian Bale, this kind of anti-utopian world where all the people's emotions were controlled, and there was the main dictator who controlled all the people with the help of the armored army, and there was a small group of rebels who wanted to overthrow, to defeat this dictator, but they had not enough gunpowder, and this Christian Bale guy, he was the cleric of the high level, which means he was one of the best soldiers who served for the dictator, and at some point he had some doubts about his life, he had some emotions, and he became connected to these rebellions, and in the end he helped them to overthrow the dictator. So the interesting thing is that in the beginning of the movie, and in this dictatorship society, in this society without emotions, all the works of arts, all the books, all the pictures were destroyed, were burned down, something like the reference to the 451 degrees of Fahrenheit. And in the beginning, Christian Bale's partner had this problem of going emotional, and he read some old books of poems by English poet Yeats, I don't know, and he read this particular line, tread softly because you tread on my, or walk softly because you tread on my dreams. And at this moment, Christian Bale killed him. And later, in the end, when Bale faced the dictator and they had the fight in the main building, in the main office of this dictator, the dictator said the same line to Bale, "Don't tread on my dreams," but it meant that the dictator himself read these types of books, but he had different and he had emotions, but his emotions were different. He wanted to control the people, to create this type of society without emotions, but he was not completely honest because he knew these types, this poem. Anyway, at some point I found this particular word "tread" in the vocabulary, in the dictionary, and I recorded it because I listened to this Oblivion movie many times. I repeated the final scene when Bale's character defeated the dictator, and when the dictator said this line before dying. So I had the sounds of this phrase in my mind, but I didn't translate it, or I didn't try to understand the meaning behind this line, or I didn't try to understand the particular words. But when I found this in the dictionary, I recorded and went back to this movie, and I got this line. Anyway, the idea is that I think it was almost half a year ago when I got this word, the to tread on the leaves, to tread on the dreams, and almost a couple of days ago I somehow recalled the story, children's story from my childhood. I don't remember exactly. Maybe I watched this movie, or maybe I just read the story, like the book, and it influenced me much, and it affected me much, because I remember something like the girl standing. Let's say the girl's face is showed on the screen, and her face occupies almost all the screen. Maybe then they show her eyes like in the zoomed form, in the zoomed image. So we just we see only her eyes on the screen, and she, I don't know, maybe she can't wink. She can't winked. She couldn't wink her eyes. Anyway, her face was immobile and she stood still, but there were flies on her face, and these flies just crawled over her face, over her eyes. Maybe she winked. She tried to remove these flies from her face, from her eyes, but she couldn't, because earlier she tore off the wings of these flies, and now these flies could only crawl over her face. They couldn't fly away. And having recalled this image so vividly, I recalled the name of the story. It was in like, I don't know, in free Russian, free English translation, it sounds like the girl who stepped on the bread. But when I typed it in the browser, I got the I think official English name of this story: the girl who trod on the bread. And obviously trod is the past form of the tread. So to tread on the dreams from the Equilibrium movie connects trod on the bread from this story. And by the way, this story is the children's story written by Hans Christian Andersen. Of course, I didn't have time to read the story in English from the beginning to the end, but I recalled this particular moment, and the most interesting stuff is that somehow my brain connected these two stories. No, my brain first got the story recorded, and then I found that the name of the story contains this word that I learned from the Equilibrium movie. And that was really cool, how the things connected, how the brain can find the connections between different things, like different attributes different attributes of different things, like the movie and the children's story, that didn't that are not connected at all, let's say in Russian, but in English they have this interesting connection. At least my brain thought that they have had this connection, and my brain gave this information to me, and that was really cool. So this was my third small talk for today, and I think I will say something about another new word that I learned, and this word is Delphi. Delphi was the city in ancient Greece where the oracle, the women, the oracle was situated, and this oracle prayed to Apollo, the Greek god, and famous people from Greece, like rulers, maybe warriors, and other celebrities, maybe even quite ordinary people, they came to this Delphic oracle, and they asked her about their fate, and this woman got the answer from the gods, and she told them the answer to the questions. And now I remembered while talking about this stuff that in fact there was some hole in the rock in the mountain where this temple of the Delphic oracle was situated, and some hallucinogenic the gases, vapors came up from this hole in the rock, and when this woman inhaled these gases, she got these hallucinations, I don't know, hallucinations. And then she started to say some random stuff. Her brain, it was like kind of the drug, and her brain started to show her different pictures, and she started to say some random things. And then there was the priest who translated all her information to the persons, to the people who came to get the advice from the gods, from Apollo. And the priest could, and all her words were quite vague, too common, too random, and the priest could interpret these words the way he wanted to please the person who came. Like if some ruler of the city came to Delphi and asked for the advice from Apollo, and the Delphic oracle told some phrases. I don't know whether this particular ruler was allowed to listen to the speech of the oracle, but in any case, the priest was the one who interpreted all her speech, and usually the priest was a clever man. He saw what the person wanted to get. Like, for example, will we win in the next war? in the next battle that we are going to fight against our enemy. And of course, the priest will give some answer like, give me some sacrifices from on behalf of Apollo. Give me some sacrifices, and then if I will be pleased enough, you will have your victory. So it was ambiguous answer, because in the case the ruler will lose the battle, the priest could always say, okay, in the case the ruler would lose the battle, the priest could always say that Apollo was not satisfied with the sacrifices. But in the case the ruler would win the battle, the priest could just say that Apollo was satisfied, that's why he sent this ruler and his army the victory. So it was just fraud, but people believed in this stuff, and they wanted to believe. And actually, such types of predictions could lift the spirits when they faced uncertainty of some war or other stuff. Anyway, I remembered all this because somehow I found the transcription for the word Delphi, and Delphi is the programming language which is built over another programming language, Pascal. Like Delphi uses Pascal and adds lots of pre-built, pre-written classes for interface, for network communication, for date, time, and other stuff. And in Russian, I always named this as Delphi, but in English it is called Delphi. So it was quite unusual for me to pronounce this word in English, and I recalled all this stuff about Delphic Oracle. Yeah, and one small reference, or one small link from this idea to the matrix. Again, they have this black woman who was the oracle, and Neo came to her and she predicted him that Morpheus will be in the mortal danger, and Neo would have to sacrifice Morpheus or help him. I don't remember the prediction, but again, the oracle thing came from the idea of the oracle in the ancient Greece. And again, Pascal, which is the core language for Delphi, Pascal is named for Blaise Pascal, which was, I think, the French mathematician somewhere in 16th or 17th century, and he Pascal has even theorem of Pascal, or Pascal's theorem. I don't remember the definition of this stuff, but I remember that, when I was in the 9th grade, maybe, I read his biography and it was quite cool. Maybe I should recall his biography and then retell it in one of my English sessions. And I just remembered that Blaise Pascal said one phrase that became the proverb, something like, if Cleopatra's nose was a centimeter shorter, then the history was different. Again, if the Cleopatra's nose was 1 centimeter shorter, the history of the world would be different. He meant that somehow Cleopatra maybe seduced Antony, I think, and it changed the history of ancient Rome, and therefore these actions changed the history of the whole world. And Blaise Pascal thought that Cleopatra was beautiful, that's why Antony kind of fell for her, but the historians discovered that Cleopatra was not beautiful. But the idea stays. If Cleopatra's nose was a centimeter shorter, the history of the world would be different. Maybe she was just very clever, very something attractive in different ways, woman, and that's why she could seduce Antony and change the history of ancient Rome and the world history in general. And with this, I have about 40 minutes of the recording. I have, I think, 5 small talks for today. Again, what was the dialogue from Thor? Next, the Latin phrases. That's 2. 3, trade on the bread. 3. Tread on the bread. 4, about Delphi. So it seems that I have only 4 small talks, but I recorded lots of additional stuff and recorded something from different movies from the history of the ancient world, and I think this particular recording was quite informative. Informative, the way I like. Different, quite short facts that connected different areas of culture, art, and other stuff. And with that, I stop today's recording.